Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of Identity Talk for Educators Live, the show for the unsung heroes of education. I'm your host, Kwame Sarfo-Mensah. And if this is your first time tuning in to this podcast, I welcome you and I hope that today's episode is one that will have you coming back for more in 2025. And if you're a returning listener or viewer of the podcast, as always, I welcome you back, and I hope that today's episode is one that you will find informative, enlightening, and as always, insightful. So, before we get to our main event, if you are on YouTube, please make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can get future notifications on new episodes of the podcast. And for those who are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of those audio platforms, make sure you subscribe there as well. And for anyone who would like to put in a donation towards the podcast so we can help continue to grow this platform, you could do that through Cash App with the handle $IDTALK4ED, Venmo with the handle @Kwame SM, PayPal with the URL paypal.me/Kwame SM. And then finally, if you are on Patreon and you are a day one supporter of Identity Talk from 2019 and on, you can go on Patreon and become a patron today, where you'll get access to behind the scenes content and some perks as a way of appreciation for all the support you've given over the years. So make sure you go on Patreon and look for Identity Talk for Educators there. And I got a new book that's been out for a couple of years, not even years, I'm sorry, a couple of months. And it's called Learn to Relearn, Supporting Identity in a Culturally Affirming Classroom. It's a book that is 3 years in the making. And I'm still blown away by the reception of the book. It's a book that's needed in this day and age, given the political rhetoric that's happening, not just in the US and the UK, but even other parts globally. We need to have some conversations centered around reframing how we talk about identity, not just with our kids, but with each other. And this is a book that's going to help with that, even if you're not a teacher. So you can get your copies today through Amazon. You can go directly to the Routledge website to get copies, which are currently on sale. And for those who have already read the book, and there's quite a few who have already gone through it and have already shared some personal connections with it, please make sure you let everybody else know what you've been able to learn and what's resonated with you from the readings. So make sure you leave that review on Amazon. If it's a 5-star review, I really appreciate the 5-star review if you believe I earned it. And also go on Goodreads as well. You could just simply copy and paste that review and put it there just to make life a little bit easier for you. Now, to learn more about this book and some of the chapters that will be inside it, you can go to the main website at learningtorelearn.com to get more information around that. Thank you for those who have purchased a copy. Thank you to those who have been continuing to share the word about the book with their friends and others. I really appreciate everything that you are doing. All right, people. So we have another guest for the podcast, and we are going to be going all the way to Venezuela for today's guest. She hails from Cameroon, but currently works in Venezuela as an international school teacher. And we're going to have her come on to just talk about her story, how she got all the way to Venezuela, and what her experience has been like being in international schools and teaching there for a number of years. So without further ado, I want to bring on today's guest, Ambola Colette Nchindo, to the podcast to talk with us about her life as a teacher, and everything else in between. So let's bring Ambola on to talk with us. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kwame, for having me. It's a privilege for me to be able to share my story and my experience with everyone.
Yes, and we're happy to have you. Come
Interesting
on.
way to start the new year.
Yes, I love it. And how are you today?
I'm feeling good. I'm happy. I'm excited what 2025 have in store for us. So I'm good.
All right. Now, are you a person that believes in resolutions or goals? How do you get your mind ready for the new year?
I believe more in goals than resolutions. I don't set very long-term goals. Most of the time I set short-term goals that are achievable and I can actually evaluate if I've been able to achieve that goal within the time frame or not.
Yes, love to hear it. So, Ambola, we're going to actually start from the beginning, like we always do on this show.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned to the audience, you are coming from the great country of Cameroon, and that's where you grew up, that's where you're born, that's where you're raised. So, I want to give you an opportunity to just share that early upbringing and also what led you to want to become an educator.
Actually, becoming an educator for me is not by chance.
Mm,
I had, I throughout my early years and my teenage years, I attended a public school. And in the public school, there were some challenges that we are going to discuss that actually gave me the opportunity to discover my passion. It was actually a challenge, but from that challenge, the passion of teaching was born. Yeah. And becoming a teacher, I have, before, I just wanted to be able to help others looking at the challenges of our Cameroon educational system. However, getting into the field, I discovered more reasons. For example, there is this sense of fulfillment in helping others.
mm-hmm.
When I was back to my teenage years in secondary school, our student teacher ratio was, I don't know the term I can use to describe it. So we had a situation where you always come to class so early so that you can occupy the front seat so that you can be able to hear the teacher properly. So I was like, so what about those that are not able to like occupy the front seat as we used to occupy? Does it mean we just let them fail? So we used to form study groups. If I am good in economics, you are good in geography, this person is good in mathematics, we come together and we teach ourselves. From there, I noticed I could teach and teach and teach without even getting tired. And I and I found a lot of fulfillment in doing that, to be honest. After my advanced level, I had a gap year, where in that gap year, I used that gap year to teach some of my mates who did not make it the year I made it,
Mm-hmm.
and others that were coming up. And during that gap year, I was like, I think if I'm pursuing a different career, then I'm making a mistake.
Right.
Yeah. So also being a positive role model to my students and helping them becoming a better version of themselves is one aspect that has really motivated me in staying in the teaching profession. Becoming a teacher is one, staying in the profession is another. You get it? So,
Yes.
yeah. So, exploring new ideas, being a role model to my student, and just the belief that you are shaping the minds of the future generation not only from your local community, but from the global community, is also very fulfilling for me. This other reason might sound a bit off, but that's the truth. As a woman, I know that from the cultural background that I'm coming from, the woman has one of the most significant role to play in the family.
Yes.
And being a teacher gives me the opportunity to be able to spend the time with my family that it needs. Like, we have a lot of vacations, and during that vacations, I am able to spend quality time with my family, which means the world for me, to be honest. Yeah.
Yes. No, that's amazing. Like a lot of us, teaching was something that just fell on your lap. You weren't planning on becoming one, but through your experience, you realize, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this.
Yeah.
Let me stick around and keep on doing this work. And I
You
want
know,
to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
in my country, the belief more that as a teacher, if you want to make it in the teaching field, you should be a public school teacher. You should be recruited by the government. So we always write competitive entrance examinations to become a public school teacher. I did the first year. I didn't make it. I told my parents, public school teacher or not, I'm going to become a teacher.
I love it. I love it. Now, I want to talk about your primary and secondary schooling. So, this is a show where we talk about identity. And for many of us, those are the years where we're searching to figure out who we are as
Yeah.
humans. So, I want to know from you if you went through a similar process where during that time there were struggles in embracing who you were as a person during school or even outside of school.
Actually, there were challenges in my secondary and primary school days. However, it wasn't related to race or ethnicity. Because, for example, I am from a system where we were all Cameroonians from the same community, so our values were pretty similar. So we did not have that challenges from the perspective of your identity. We were the same people. However, we had other challenges that were not from identity related. Like, for example, I've already mentioned one, which is like the student teacher ratio, which was like one teacher to about 200 students, limited access to resources. We had very limited resources. And being from a background where we were not financially viable, all those textbooks were not very much affordable to us. We had little to no access to technology. For example, in my school, we had a computer lab that was open only for the students who choose computer science as a subject. So with these challenges, you had to, rather than stay back and complain, you had to figure it out. You had to take responsibility of your own learning, or you drop out. And dropping out was not an option for me.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had to, for example, we had cases where I remember in a group of my friends, I bought an economics textbook, a friend bought a geography textbook, another bought a mathematics textbook, and we swapped. When I'm done reading economics, I swap with geography, I swap with this. So you see that we had to figure it out. Then I had to pay private computer classes in order to be able to acquire the basic technology. You know, by that time, smartphones were not very common.
Right.
So yeah, we had to like pay for extra computer lessons. You go to what we used to call a cyber cafe, where you buy time, 30 minutes, an hour to do some research. And that's how we had to make things work for us.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because when I was in Ghana, a lot of these same things were happening where I had classmates who had to share textbooks, had to share notebooks and exercise books, because when you are in West African countries or
Yeah.
countries where you're taking WIAC exams. So for those who don't know what WIAC is, West African Examinations Council.
Yeah.
So a lot of the major exams that Ambola and others who are on that section of the continent had to do were from WIAC. And that was the case for me when I was in Ghana. So you had to do what you can to share resources, because you didn't have the funds to afford them all the time. And even if you were the smartest person in your class, if you were a smart student or if you were someone that wasn't at the top of the class, no
Yeah.
money, you don't go to school. So that's a real thing.
Yeah. So these are challenges, but I'm grateful that it shaped me to who I am today. Because, are you there?
I'm still here.
Because it helped me to be more independent and develop my problem solving skills. Rather than
Hmm.
sit back and complain, we had to look for a solution. And that has been part and parcel of me even till today. If I have a problem, even if I go to complain to the admin, I'm complaining and proposing a solution at the same time. I
Hmm.
do, yeah, I do not believe that somebody has to solve the problem for me. I always try to look for solutions, no matter how challenging the problem is. And I was determined to make a difference. I
Hmm.
I didn't want my others. I did not want my background to be an obstacle to me. Yes, I
Right.
didn't go to the best of schools, but wherever I went to, I tried to stand out as much as I,
Hmm.
yeah.
So you embark on this journey as a teacher, and I know for you, you taught in a few international schools in Cameroon,
Yeah.
but then eventually you managed to find your way all the way in Venezuela where you are right now. So before you talk about your time in Venezuela, I want to really focus on how we got to that point, because what people don't realize is that it's rare to see African teachers be employed as lead teachers in international schools. If anything, that's still a major issue within the continent, is that we have highly credentialed professionals, African professionals with degrees and years of experience, but their ceiling may be to be a teaching assistant
Yeah.
or a paraprofessional, when there may be times where they are more qualified than the actual teachers they're assisting. So I want to point that out, because for you to be where you are, that's not something that's commonplace. So I wanted to spend some time to talk about that issue and get your perspective on that.
Okay. Actually, I started my journey as a teacher in a lay private school in Cameroon. I taught in the lay private schools for about 3 years. So when I went to this other international school, they had fewer expatriates. So the school was like counting on us who have previous experience to help grow the school. It was a new school. There I had to take more professional developments, like I did an ID diploma in teaching and learning. I did a PGCE to be able to meet up to that international standard, in quotes.
Mhm.
When I did all those trainings, I was like, okay, one thing about me is I'm comfortable in an environment where I know that I can learn and grow. When I become the most smart person in the room, I think it's time for me to leave that room. So I was in that school for 2 years. My third year, I was like, okay, now I think I am equipped and I'm ready to face the international community. Let me get into the job market, which I had to join Search Associate. Through Search Associate, I had quite a lot of interviews, and I got this and some others that came offers that came late, but this was my starting point. I was excited about it, and at this point, I can say I made the right decision.
Hi friends, it's me, Thaddeus from Thaddeus Nature Notebook. Are you loving our journey into the wild and learning all about awesome animals? Then don't forget to subscribe. You can find Thaddeus Nature Notebook on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just hit that subscribe button and never miss a new episode. And if you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment about your favorite animal. Thanks for listening and exploring nature with me. Let's keep discovering together. Now back to my daddy's show.
And then let's talk about that. So you're now in Venezuela where you've been teaching and currently are teaching.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it had to been a culture shock when you got there, because we're talking
It is.
Latin America.
Yep.
Everybody's speaking Spanish.
Yes.
And the cultures, although there may be some intersections and similarities, there's a lot more differences there that you had to get used to. So I would love to learn more about what some of those differences are and how your time in Venezuela has impacted you personally and also professionally.
Generally, Venezuela, when I came to Venezuela, I was so excited. When I got this job, I was so excited to come to Venezuela. However, there are certain things about the country that I really like. First, the climate. The climate is very similar to where I'm coming from in Cameroon.
Yeah.
So in terms of climate, I'm very much good to go. They have excellent cuisines. Their food is so good. And 95% of what we use in Cameroon, I can find here. So I'm like, I'm home away from home. I don't feel like I'm missing so much as far as food is concerned. The people are very friendly people. However, this is my observation. I don't think an American will say exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my observation. They have been very nice to me. The police, the immigration, the people around, they are really good. And they have a lot of good places to visit. Nice beaches, mountains to go hiking. However, I have my own share of the challenges. The first one being the language, Spanish. I have never been exposed to a Spanish community before. So I grew up in Cameroon where we speak English.
Yes.
So this is my first time being exposed to Spanish. And the people here, they talk so fast. Yeah. At times, you even try to pick those 1-2 words, they're gone. Which is it makes things really challenging for me, especially when interacting with the community. You need to go to the market, you need to do some shopping. It's a bit challenging. Then another issue that I have is the currency. The currency is very unstable.
Is it expensive or is it just fluctuating up and down? The rates?
The rates are fluctuating on a daily basis.
Oh, wow.
When I came to the country, $1 was exchanged for 5 bolivars. Now a dollar is exchanged for 50-something bolivars.
Hey.
You go to the supermarket, they say it's 57. You go to the next supermarket, they say it's 58. You go to another, it's 52. You can't even tell. That's a serious challenge. So,
wow.
Till now, I don't really understand how the currency functions that well, to be honest. At a professional level, the people in general are very loud people. When they are excited, they can be so loud. And yeah, that's how you know that a Venezuelan is happy.
Mm-hmm.
They are so loud. Then the students, their attitude towards learning is very different from what I experienced back in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes, I grew up in a system where we had that intrinsic motivation in us. From my story, that
That's right.
intrinsic motivation was there. I taught in international school. Yes, their intrinsic motivation wasn't as much as ours, but it was still there. Here,
Sure.
where I am, it's the bare minimum. Student, and they are very vocal about it. They'll be like, Miss, I'm just here because my parents want me to be here. I don't want to be here. So yeah, they tell you that. So
Wow. I'm not surprised, but go on. I'm not surprised.
So my first 6 months, I was like, what is going on? Before I came here, I was ready. I had prepared my lesson plans. I had prepared everything. I had to go back to the drawing board. In terms of race, this country has a good percentage of Black people as part of their population. However, seeing a Black person in the income class of the students that we teach is almost non-existent. In my school at the moment, the only Black child is my son. You get what I mean?
I am with you. I'm with you.
You can understand where I'm coming from. And with these students being very vocal, they used to ask some questions that they're like, Miss Ambola, are you Black or are you white or are you mixed race? I said, I'm Cameroonian. They said, but you are too fair to be an African and too Black to be a white. I'm like, I don't identify with a color. I am a Cameroonian. Color is not part of me. They are like, okay, do you have good universities in Cameroon? Where did you learn English? You get it? And so one would be like, okay, Miss Ambola, with the time you have spent here with us, if you were given an opportunity to marry again, will you marry a Black man? I'm like, excuse me?
Now, for our audience who's listening, what grade level or class level are these students who are saying these comments from?
That's 11 and 12th grade.
So, okay, secondary level students. Okay, I just want to make sure we provide context there.
Yeah, they are not asking it in a mean way.
No,
it's just a conversation.
Sure.
You get it? I would
yes,
be like,
I'm with you.
I marry values, not color. Be like, no, Miss, will you like to be one of us? I'm like, oh, that's my
but you know what though? It's interesting because when you're in Africa, we don't really have conversations about race.
Yes.
We do see colorism within our respective countries, but we don't have open conversations about race like you would in other parts of the world, like the United States or even parts of Southern America where you are, or in Europe. We just say, well, we go by our nationality. We go by our tribe.
Yes.
That's how we identify more often than not. So when you go into a space where they're telling you that you're Black, that's probably the first time you've realized, oh, I am Black. I've never been called that before.
I've never been called that.
It's an epiphany. Right.
Yeah, that's true. Then Some parents are pretty very good and welcoming. There are some that are not very welcoming. So, however, what I try to do is I do my job properly so that if you're having an issue, have an issue with my color, not my profession or my work ethic. If the problem is my color, I don't care. It matters more to me if it concerns my profession and my work ethic, then I know that is a cause for concern. But if you don't just like me because I'm not white, it's okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good attitude to have. You gotta be like that.
Yeah.
So, from what you've shared in your experience, I mean, you're not the first that's gone through that. You're definitely not the first, and you probably won't be the last.
Sure.
I'm wondering on the professional side, how has it been adjusting at your school to either curriculum or just colleagues and people?
Actually, our school is pretty very inclusive
Yeah,
because they make you feel at home, they make you feel amongst. You get
that's
it?
good.
So as far as colleagues are concerned, and everybody is available to help. Everybody is approachable. You can talk to them and they will understand. We have a principal whose wife is a Jamaican, is a British man, and he is very open. If you bring a complaint to him, he will be like, "Oh, I understand you. My wife has been there." You get it. He's
That's
very
right.
open to those type of conversations, and he has been really been helpful. The adapting has really, it was very easy for me as on the side of the colleagues. However, you know that with the students, they have been seeing different faces, different teachers, and I don't think it is their duty to adapt to you. Rather, I see it as my duty to adapt to them,
That's right.
to their teaching style. So my major challenge was adapting to the teaching style of the students. As far as colleagues were concerned, I was very okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's why I had to like go back to the drawing board, be more accommodating, listen to them one on one and understand their interest and how I can incorporate this interest into the teaching learning process. You know, I teach a subject that I teach economics and business management, and a majority of our students are children of entrepreneurs. And
Yes.
most of them are hoping that someday they would take over their parents' companies.
I was gonna get there too. I knew
So,
it.
yeah, so I had to like take advantage from that particular dimension. For example, if I have to teach a topic on human resource management, I try to make use of the companies that they are familiar with. In that way, that we will open the discussion for more engagement, and gradually the students are gradually getting into the subject. Let me say so.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, as you're sharing all this, I'm just thinking about what you mentioned earlier about your time in Cameroon and
Yeah.
even growing up, not having all the resources, having teacher shortages,
Yeah.
having to share books
Yeah.
in order to do courses. When you are in your school in Venezuela and you're teaching your students, do you ever think to yourself, wow, like I need to find a way to bring some of this good stuff back to my home country so I can help my children over there? You have to.
I have to. Take, for example, here the students have enough resources.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, I'm like, had it been I had these resources, maybe my path would have been different. I don't know. However, we all I as a person, you have taken me further to the to what I was to talk about. In 2025, I believe in quality education for all.
Aha.
I believe quality education should not be a privilege.
That's right.
Yeah. So last year I started in my very local community because we have children that are in a worse situation than I was.
Mm.
For example, there are some that cannot even afford tuition fee.
Wow.
There are some that cannot even afford those basic necessities. So last year, I had to work with a foundation that a friend or family is running to be able to pay the tuition fee of some children, afford necessity or basic school needs for these children. At least that last year was just a starting point, and I hope to even do more. Like equipping libraries. Library is something I never had in my school days.
Mm.
Yeah, in my school, we never had a library. So these are some of the things that I usually think. I'm like, if these children can have an equipped library, an equipped computer lab where they can be able to do some good research, it will go a long way.
The Identity Talk for Educators Live podcast is just one piece of the work that we do under Identity Talk Consulting, which we've had since 2019. And since then, we've had the privilege of working with 40 different schools, districts, and organizations across the globe. And we want to continue to add to that number in this new year. So if you are a school, if you're an educator or an organization that's looking to receive professional development and consulting services within any of our pillars, whether it's anti-bias, anti-racist practices, culturally responsive teaching, or identity affirming education, we are the firm for you, and we love to learn more about your needs. When you have a chance, make sure you go to our website at identitytalk4educators.com to learn more about our services and to schedule a discovery call today. We love to hear from you.
So all those are projects that I have in the pipeline.
All right, that's good to know. And this is something that's happening in other African countries too. And I always keep asking myself, we have all these international schools within the continent.
Yeah.
It'll be so beneficial if there was a way for the international schools to partner with some of the local government schools in these countries and provide resources.
Yeah.
A simple example would be, all right, you want to do a conference? Because one thing that we know for sure is a lot of our local teachers, they're not able to fly to a different country to
Sure.
attend a teacher conference where they can network with people. Well, you could use the international school as a hub or a venue for a conference within town, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say we're in Douala, right?
Yeah.
International schools there. Okay, let's just do a conference there, and we invite local teachers to come, and we can get some professional development where we can learn from expat teachers who have had opportunities to get quality professional development, and they already have the resources.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that it's possible.
It's very possible. With the advancement in technology,
Yes.
even online trainings. They can do online trainings even on their phones. It's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just something that I've thought about. But getting back to you, as I prepare for these different podcasts, and particularly with your interview, I always look at people's social media. I look at past YouTubes and other resources just to see what can I bring up that's going to provide a quality conversation. And I want to talk about burnout and fatigue, because that's something that a lot of us experience as international educators. And I know in your case, you're somebody who is very active, you will always extend a helping hand, especially in times where the school is in need of some type of service or a void has to be filled. You're always quick to say, I could do it and I can do it. Something that I've come to realize, particularly for Black and brown educators, international schools who tend to do that, we end up in some cases being overexploited or taken advantage of to the point of burnout. So for me, my question is, because you're a mother, you have a family, how do you balance that out so you don't get to that point of burnout and fatigue? What are some things that you do for yourself?
Okay. Generally, I prioritize self-care. That's very important because
Yes.
I believe that if I'm burned out, I will not be able to provide the quality service that I desire to provide. So first, I have to take care of my physical health. Our school happens to have a gym and a swimming pool. So at the end of the school day, I go to the gym for about 45 minutes. I sleep pretty well. I try to sleep for about 7 hours a day at least, and I eat healthy. Also, I do what I enjoy doing, like reading, spending time in nature. Like I go to the zoo, go to the beach, go hiking, and I manage my workload in a way that I don't have to carry schoolwork to my house. For example, if I have to mark scripts, I make sure I do that within my school day. However, with the IB system, when you need to check in, you need to give feedback for internal assessments, you need to supervise extended ACEs, that's quite a lot. Sometimes I do compromise that rule of not bringing work at home, and I have to do that for the sake of the students. Also, I try very much to connect with my colleagues and my friends both in and out of Venezuela. Since I came to Venezuela, I've not met another Cameroonian here. I had I had 3 other Africans last year who have all left. So I'm here with one of my colleagues who is a Tunisian. Those are the only Africans that I know, myself and her. So I connect with friends out of Venezuela. We have time to talk. I ask for advice for more senior colleagues like Estelle, the principal of Senegal.
Still, yeah.
I talk with her sometime when I have some challenges. I ask for advice. And also, I don't compete with anyone. I try to embrace my uniqueness and strive to be a better version of myself. Of late, I have also tried to set healthy boundaries. It's okay to say no sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah, when I just came over, just wanted to do everything as you said. But gradually, I'm learning to say no as constructively as I can for my well-being. So that's
awesome.
look on it. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then this will be my final question before we wrap up. Knowing that we still have a shortage of African educators in international schools globally.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what are some measures that need to be taken to ensure that their recruitment and the retention is increased for African educators in international schools? What do you think?
Okay, let me talk about Cameroon.
That's fine. Yep.
Okay. So generally, the issue with Cameroon is the lack of knowledge of the international system. Yeah, many of them they don't believe that as a Cameroonian, they can be able to secure a job abroad. I can remember my first time when I start my first year in the Bridge International School, I told a colleague that some days I would like to be like this expatriate, and she told me that this is not for Cameroonians. I was like, okay, let's see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So my 5th year, when I left Cameroon, I called her. I'm like, I'm in Venezuela. She was like, how did you do it?
You try to tell her?
I told her, that young lady, equip yourself and you are good to go. So I have actually encouraged a good number of Cameroonians who have left already. There is one that is coming over to join me here in Venezuela next year. So I try to sensitize them. We have a Cameroonian group for expatriates, where Cameroonian teachers are brought in the group. And at times we organize some sort of, there was a conference we organized last year in September, where we invited other Cameroonian teachers in Cameroon to sensitize them about international education and what they can do if they're interested in teaching out of the country.
That's right.
So many of them followed the advice, and I think this year's a good number of them left the country. They contacted me, I'm like, oh, lady, we left. Oh, we followed your advice. I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm happy. And we intend to continue spreading that knowledge so that Cameroonian teachers will know that there is a world out there for them to explore. Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm sure my other fellow Africans are doing the same.
Yes, we have to create these pipelines and exchange the information. Once we know something, there's a responsibility for us to pass it down to the next person.
Yeah.
So then that person could pass it down to the next person. And then
Yeah.
that's how the pipeline is created. Because the reality is this is what everybody else does for their groups. They do the same thing for their groups. We got to do the same.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So normally the job hunting process is not very easy for us, the Blacks, which I let my fellow Cameroonians know. But if you do not give up, there is always light at the end of the tunnel.
Let me ask you this, though, because you mentioned Search Associates.
Yeah.
Now, I had a Search Associates account when I first started abroad. And what people don't realize is to start an account with Search Associates, there's a fee.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm not sure if it's increased or gone down, but I know for me,
It's gone down.
it was 200, I think it was like $200 US.
So I paid 225.
Somewhere around there to activate an account.
Yes.
Now, thankfully, I was able to afford that, but not everybody could afford that amount. That's a lot of money for a lot of folks. But yet, that's one of the main websites where you can find a job internationally. It's one of the most popular databases.
Yeah. Actually, it is pretty expensive. But again, I believe that you have to invest in yourself.
I agree with that.
My belief. I feel like in life, I grew up from my background. I can tell I don't believe anything could come in so easy to me. I don't know about the others. Of recent, I noticed the price had gone down. It's about $100, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, that's good.
Yeah, it has gone down. However, those that I try to encourage, I encourage them to look at it from an investment perspective. Because the truth is that you can't tell them that, okay, look just for the websites that are free. How credible are they? I can't say that I will pay for all of them. You get it? Though
I'm with you.
I have supported one or two, but however, see it as an investment.
That's right.
Yeah, investing and hoping for the best. What will come out of that investment is way more than what you're going to put into the system. When I registered on Search Associate, I was given an associate. I chose an associate. I wasn't given, sorry. I chose an associate who has been very much hands-on. Even after getting this job, the guy still contacts me to ask how I'm doing.
That's good.
Is there anywhere he can help? Is there
Yeah.
anywhere I think he can intervene? You
That's
get it?
good.
So
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, from that light, I cannot say that I regret the money I spent there. I don't. So usually when encouraging them, I'm like, okay, it is costly, but look at it as an investment into your career. Most of them that we are working with are not those that are coming right out of school. At least they have had 1 or 2 part-time jobs, which if they are really willing to invest in themselves, I don't think that is too much for them. That's what I think.
Yes, and that's all very true. It is an investment, and I'm thankful that you shared your experience with Search Associates. And then there are other databases that are similar. There's GRC, there's IS, you have the International Educator. They have their own databases.
Yeah, they have their own databases. Yeah.
So it's like the same thing. You do have to put an investment in and recognize what the value is for what you are investing in.
Yes.
Yeah. Ambola, we could talk forever. I'm sure there was a lot more we could have shared, but I think we covered quite a lot of ground in this hour. So I want to end it with this question that I ask everybody, and that is, how do you stay true to the teacher in you?
Okay. Generally, reflection is part and parcel of my day-to-day activities. I reflect especially on the reasons why I became a teacher, my teaching practices, am I living the dream?
That's right.
I embrace my uniqueness, as I said. I don't try to be like another teacher. All I try to do is be a better version of myself. I learn from others to make myself better. I build genuine connections beyond tests and grades. They are my students. They want to pass. They want to have good grades. But I try to build connection beyond that by having conversations with them, understanding their interests and challenges, and helping when I can, as well as collaborate with my colleagues, set healthy boundaries, not to avoid burnout. And with that, I think that I enjoy my profession and I stay true to who I am as a teacher.
Well, there it is. There it is. Ambola, thank you so much. You are amazing. I know we're going to see each other very soon, but for those who want to connect with you, how can people connect with you either on social media or some other platform if they want to learn more about how to get into this international school game? How can they connect?
I am on quite many social media platforms: Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. My name remains Ambola Colette. So type there, you will always see me. As in terms of I'm trying to like do more risk. At least now I am pretty much very settled into the international system. I'm trying to see how I can impact others through these social medias, though I'm still at the starting stage.
And there it is, people. So make sure you connect with Ambola. I will be sure to put her information in the episode notes so you all can connect. And on behalf of Ambola, I'm going to wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. And we're going to do this again another time.
Thank you.
Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.